one last thing. I'm going to do a quick update on Pluribus. So Pluribus, we are now up to episode 3 on Pluribus. And I just want to quickly give you a quick recap of what happened. Rate it. The first two were 5 stars each. And also, where did my predictions go and what predictions do I have for the future? I'm going to go very quickly, though. I'm not going to do a long dissertation on this. I'm going to say, when we left off, Carol had stopped Air Force One. She was standing in front of Air Force One, and she was presumably going to get back Zosia. She decided Zosia should not go with the hedonistic harem Hugh Hefner sort of dude. And that's where we left off at the end of season 2, or episode 2. Episode 3 begins with a flashback before any events that we saw in the first 2 episodes. And she is with her, we never know for sure, her girlfriend / wife. And they are at this really, high-end destination hotel in Norway, this ice hotel. And you immediately see how I'm just going to call her wife. Her wife really wanted to do special things for Carol, and how Carol was very sardonic and unappreciative, and her whole personality is Debbie Downer, which we have seen already in the first 2 episodes. And she just doesn't appreciate this ice hotel. But at the same time, it's this really unique and weird experience. And then, of course, we cut back to current day, which is Carol stuck in her house again. She knows what the world's doing. She is fully has sunken into depression because now she, after meeting the other half of the people that are like her on Earth and seeing that they basically all are fine with the new world, she knows that she's on an island as far as her attempts to want to change back to where it was and to get rid of this, alien consciousness invasion or whatever you want to call it. There is one little sequence where she tries to call everybody, or she tries to find out about everybody else that she hasn't talked to that's like her. And the only thing we find out there's one guy, the guy they found last, and he's in Uruguay or Paraguay, I forget which one, and he is even less wanting to talk to the unity, the meat puppets. He doesn't want to talk to anybody. In fact, she tries to call him. He won't talk to her. In fact, they yell at each other. They have a little antagonistic moment. So I think my prediction that the other person that's like her that she's going to try to find, I thought she was going to discover it by the other person causing the seizure. But that I think by her discovering that person's there, that's definitely going to come into play again as the season goes on. Because the fact that there's somebody else who's trying to fight this entity, that is going to somehow spark her. Not as much as what happens in this episode, though. So, like I said, the rest of the episode is almost like depression. The entity is trying to feed her an awesome meal that she had when she was in one of her best moments. They pick her memory, and she's like, "Stop picking my memory." And they bring her this beautiful cloche covered breakfast. She throws it away. She spends all of her time just hidden in her house watching Golden Girl reruns, and once again you feel that this is just not working for her. It's empty. It's probably a comfort food for her, but it's not working. There's no comfort because there's no one else in the world. She's all alone. Even though there's millions of people, they aren't people, and it's really causing her a crisis. And she decides, I want to go get my own food. I want to make my own food. She's trying to recapture, trying to keep some semblance of her actual former world. And she goes to her favorite grocery store, Sprouts, and it's been emptied out because the hive mind is like, we are centralizing everything. We're making everything as efficient as possible. We don't need to have things all over the place because we're just pushing everything together to the most efficient use of space and time and energy and all these kind of things, because why would you need to have stuff spread all over the place? She, of course, is like, well, I want my Sprouts back. And they're like, okay. And then 2 hours later, they brought in 20 trucks and hundreds of people. And they all just like ants, like worker ants. They just repopulate the entire grocery store with fresh food and fresh produce and fresh everything. And now she has her own little store. So in a way, she's sunken into the habits of the hedonistic guy, but just on a very small scale. So once again, that doesn't fulfill her either. It freaks her out a lot, and she's angry as always. She's one of the most angry, grumpy Debbie Downer characters you've ever seen, which is great. And this leads to the namesake of the episode and the crux of the episode, and that this episode is called Grenade. And at some point, she makes a really sarcastic comment, something to the degree of like, why don't you just get me a grenade and I'll just blow this whole thing up, or something like that, right? And of course, I don't know, an hour later or whatever, shows up at her door a grenade. And she's like, great, a grenade. And she's really like, whatever, it figures. She doesn't believe it's a real grenade, or maybe she does. You're never quite sure. She says she doesn't believe it's a real grenade, but it's a real grenade. Watching the show, why wouldn't it be? And she goes ahead and has her, sit down, decides to have a drink with Zosia. It's like she's giving in and like, well, at least I have this robot to talk to. That's how I feel like she's taking it. Like it's not the same as a real human being, but she can pretend because it's all she has. And it's better than the TV, which really doesn't do anything because it just never changes. It's just an old series. And, she's having her drinks with Zosia. And I forget how the argument goes exactly. But during the conversation, essentially, she is holding the grenade and, saying like, well, I could pull the pin, and like, not joking about it, but then accidentally does pull the pin, and it really is a real grenade. And Zosia, like immediately gets up, politely says, excuse me, and then takes the grenade and throws it out the window, and it blows up and almost kills Zosia, or almost kills Zosia's meat puppet, because is that a human? Who knows? What do we say? And this leads to the key conversation, and probably one of the turning points of this season so far, only being 3 episodes in. And that is at the hospital, where Zosia is going to end up being fine, apparently. She survived her injuries, mostly because, they thank Carol. Thank you, Carol, for your quick action, because she like put pressure on the wound or whatever, even though like obviously they could be not thanking her for causing the explosion, but whatever. Anyway, she ends up having this conversation with the quote doctor, who looks like a delivery person, and it strikes her. It strikes her like, this was a real grenade. Why did you guys give me a real grenade? That's a terrible thing to do, even because I asked for it. Just because I asked for something that's dangerous, why would you give it to me? And of course, this is obviously a metaphor for in the real world, right? Like, you don't want to give everybody everything they want, or it could be to detriment of society. And the person's like, well, we just want to make you happy. Of course we gave you a real grenade. You asked for a grenade, so we gave you one. If you'd said you didn't want a real one, we would have got you a non-real one, whatever. And then she begins to escalate. And this is that kind of what if conversation you would have with somebody over something like, I don't know, gun control or something, right? Where she basically says like, you brought me a grenade. What if I asked for a bazooka? Would you bring me that? Well, of course we would. What about a tank? Well, and they think about it for like a split second, probably just deciding like, how hard would it be to get you a tank? And they're like, yes, we would. And she says, what about a nuclear warhead? And once again, like I said, this is one of those like, what if philosophical conversations you might have, or a stoner conversation you might have. But in this case, it could actually happen very easily in this world. And this is the first time she sees a crack, because she's saying like, what if this made me happy? What if it made me happy to have a nuclear warhead? And they don't say immediately yes. They say something like, well, we'd have to have a really serious conversation about it. And she goes, yeah, but what if I decided I really, really needed that? And they're like, well, if you really needed the nuclear warhead, we would get it for you. And of course, she's sitting there just stunned. And I think, and this is the moment where, and it leaves you at this moment, not sure what she's thinking in that situation. Does she want a nuclear warhead? I don't think she wants a nuclear warhead. But I think what has happened is her wheels have turned. And this is what I predicted a little bit in the last episode. And that is, I thought she was going to find a way to break their brains, or to use their wanting to please all the time, and to somehow show them with a contradiction that they couldn't achieve that without hurting someone, and that would force them into an unfixable dilemma where no matter what they did, they'd have to do something to hurt somebody. I gave the example of the trolley, experiment kind of a thing. And I think she, in a sense, has just tripped upon that idea because she's thinking, I'm sure she's thinking to herself some version of, well, if I asked for a nuclear warhead, which would do nothing but cause damage and destruction and long-term effects that were negative, but it would make me happy, like I'm a crazy sociopath or something, you would do that for me. Then I think she's seeing and she saw the pause. I think the discovery of that is that she now knows like, oh, the chink in the armor of this happy cult-like mass entity, hive mind entity, is that it can't deal with contradictions, moral contradictions or conundrums. And I feel like now in episode 4, Carol has found her purpose. I think her purpose is to find ways to basically start to throw wrenches, these philosophical wrenches, into the system of the hive mind. And I'm not sure how she's going to do it. I think that's going to be a lot of the fun, is watching how she does that. But I think that has now become her goal. It's given her a purpose in her life. And that is the way she maybe can, quote, defeat them. I don't know about that part of it, but it makes me wonder. And I do have one other issue, and I will stop talking about Pluribus. But yes, I hope that you guys are enjoying talking about Pluribus and watching it. One other thing I wonder about is this. And will they at some point come to this, or will she, Carol, come to this question? And that is, what is the end game? So if this entity / whatever it is going across until it finds a planet who can solve its mystery code, and the mystery code causes this, cascade of, quote, infection or overtaking of the whole planet's ecosystem. So all intelligent life forms basically become your like little zombie puppets, happy zombie puppets. What is the end game when the entire planet has been overcome? Because once you have the entire planet overcome, all you are then is just a well-working machine that has no purpose, right? Because if they're all overtaken, what do? They just basically keep the lights on, and that's it. Because it doesn't show that the actual, all the meat puppets, I keep calling them that because they don't have any initiative. They don't have any desires. They literally just want to do whatever they're told to do, and whatever they can do to keep these, anomalies happy. Well, I'm not sure why they want to keep the anomalies happy, other than the only reason I think they want to keep the anomalies happy is that unhappy anomalies can cause the hive mind danger. So it's just a survival mechanism. But my question is, if the entire planet's been assimilated, then what is the point of this entity? Like, what is the end game? What does it want? I feel like that question, when that question starts to get answered, we'll start to know what the real conflict is. Because right now we don't know what the real conflict is. Right now it's like a thought experiment that poor Carol, poor angry, grumpy, annoying Carol is stuck in. And we're waiting to hear what is the next shoe that will drop. Very, very interesting series. I'm really still enjoying it quite a bit. Will this be a 5-star episode? I'm probably going to go 4 stars in this one, just because we spend about half of the episode in Carol's depression, and it's important for her character to see where she goes, but it isn't as fun to watch. Whereas I think the last half of the episode is the real meat and potatoes of the episode. I think that's the kind of thing where you probably could have got there a little quicker, and that's the stuff I really wanted to watch, but it's still really good. And once again, the idea is so interesting.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my Deepest Dream channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, thanks so much for your support. Take care.